So I've made a couple of videos over the last week or so, kind of talking about the, 2025 AFL draft, especially to do with Richmond and how kind of their plans have evolved and a couple of the other situations they have been doing. I actually did a video talking about Adam Uze and him going on the SEN podcast and radio station and essentially just dropping some hard news about how Richmond's draft could of course unfold. But while I was doing some research for that video, I did actually find a post talking a little bit about some potential opinions on who Richmond should actually go and draft in the 2025 AFL draft. So this was a post by Tiger Faithful. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who this is. The page was originally called Tiger Ambush, and I feel like half the times there's some really good stuff on this page. The other half, there's, some interesting shit, to say the least. But this one's a bit of an opinion piece by he or she, gender equality, that actually talks about who they think the Tigers should, of course, go and draft this year. So it is being said that Sullivan Roby and Sam Grlj need to be Tigers. The Codes League has finally come to an end. Draft prospects have done everything they can on the field to give them the chance to be drafted in November. There is still more interviews to be had and the combine to be completed, but the footy is finished. Toomey thinks you could throw a blanket over the prospects ranked 3 to 12, so clubs may go needs first. These are my favourite two players that I think make Richmond better the most. Sam Grlj, I've been huge on for a long time. He's aggressive, tough, and is lightning fast. There's a lot of Max Holmes to him, a player we gifted to the Geelong in 2020. Biggest need, our midfield, has his blazing speed and Grlj has it. Non-negotiable, we must have Sam Grlj. So yeah, that is actually true. We did have, I think it was pick 20 at the time in that draft, and we actually traded away for a future first. And with that pick, Geelong ended up selecting Max Holmes, and this was on draft night when we traded away that pick. And of course, we would get the pick next year, which would go, I think it was the pick 17, and we selected Tom Brown. So wasn't the worst, I think, outcome, because Tom Brown is actually a really, really good player. But the reality is that the Tigers could have had Max Holmes and absolutely need a player like Max Holmes, who Sam Grlj has genuinely been compared to. Of course, Sam Grlj is a really, really quick stoppage player who can also play half-back. He actually played for Richmond in the VFL for the last couple games of the year and played as a half-back and looked really, really good. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in his first year or two, if he was to play for Richmond, would play as a quick, dashing half-back, especially considering I also think Richmond needs some bursts off the half-back line as well. It's probably the only thing the Tigers are missing down back. But the reality is, not only is Sam Grlj being compared to a modern-day Max Holmes, but has been compared to a younger Chris Judd as well, just for the bursts out of the stoppage, the quickness. Sam Grlj also seems to have pretty good two-way running. I just think is a really, really good midfielder who would really fit the Tigers and what they are, of course, trying to do. But also, if you don't have him as a midfielder straight away and you go by the ideology of what Uze was already doing, playing, I think Houghton majority as a forward, Lawler majority as a forward, and you don't get him in the midfield straight away, then of course Sam Grlj can go and play as a halfback as well. So yeah, Sam Grlj makes a ton of sense. I honestly would low-key be a bit surprised if the Tigers didn't take him at this point, but so much can change. Like, there's still a month away or so to the draft. And we're going to remember last year, like at this time, we kind of knew the Tigers were probably going to be a lock to take Sam Lawler and Josh Smiley, especially considering it was said that Daniel Rioli trade back then was a lock. We really don't know who the Tigers are drafting this year. We don't even know who West Coast are taking. We don't know anything because the draft continues to change every day with players going up and players going down. And one of those players who has dramatically gone up is Sullivan Roby. He goes on to say that Sully Roby is the biggest bolter I've seen. In the 4 finals he's played, he's averaged 26 disposals and 2.5 goals. He's big, powerful, clean and versatile. He can play deep forward, half forward and midfield. Richmond need more versatile players, especially ones who can push forward and kick goals. Roby doesn't have the type of speed that Grlj has, but he's powerful over the first 15 metres. I truly believe Roby will be special at the AFL level. Reminds me of a right-footed Harvey Langford. Now, for those of you who don't know who Sullivan Roby is, there is a little bit, of course, about him now because he's actually jumped all the way up to the 8th ranked player. Considering just a month ago, I don't even think he was in the top 30 or anywhere near it. Sullivan Roby is a 192 centimetre player from the Eastern Rangers who in his 8 games averages 20.5 disposals and 1.8 goals. Now some of you might be saying, why is there only 8 games there? There's so many more games than that in a season. That's because he actually wasn't getting a game. Yeah, introducing the biggest draft bolter in a decade. Roby was cut from the Stingrays under 16s and overlooked until dominant performances for Rowville earned an Eastern call-up this year. A late growth spurt and now exposure to midfield minutes over the past 6 weeks has seen the strong-bodied Ranger star rocket into top 10 calculations. He's strong and powerful, able to link up in chains and kick with penetration in the forward half. Roby has limited vision for recruiters to go off, which may impact how high he is taken. So yeah, this guy was not getting a game. He wasn't getting a game until he played a bunch of good games consecutively for Rowville. Eastern Rangers decided to put him in, and since he's been picked, he's averaged 20.5 disposals a game, 1.8 goals, and that's not even, I don't even think that's counting, what he's just done in the finals, because as I said, this finals performance is absolutely crazy. I'm looking at the numbers here, 26 disposals and 2.5 goals, while also helping the Eastern Rangers go on to win the premiership. This is insane. I very well feel like could go top 10, especially if clubs, get him in and he does some work with the combine stuff, some work with clubs, the interviews, all that type of stuff, and he performs well in them. There's no reason why teams won't look at him. I just think I am a little bit scared to think that, yeah, we know this guy could probably be a really good forward, but if they're thinking of him as a midfielder and he hasn't actually played a whole lot of midfield, I don't know. Like his exposure in the midfield, other than these 12 games, hasn't been so much where you're like, that's 100% a lock for a guy who should be, pick 2 or 3, which the Tigers have. So the Tigers, you could almost argue, could they trade down to get him? But it's like, if you trade down, some club might just take him at pick 8 or something like that. And it's like, holy shit, you just made a mistake. It goes on to say though, so in summary, we got the speed, toughness and ball use in Grlj, and the power, composure, ball winning and goal kicking power of Roby. Last year I called Lawler to Richmond early. He had the skill set we needed. These 2 boys are both different to what we have and they complement our list perfectly. Lock it in. These are the 2 boys I want the most. Get back to me in November. Now that is true. This guy did kind of predict the Sam Lawler shit months before it was really confirmed to the Tigers and whatnot. But I just don't know. I almost feel like if the Tigers want a Roby or a Lockie Doverson, which they've also kind of been mentioned that they might be interested in because he's a really good, clever small forward, you're almost better to split the picks. And if the Tigers have as many, of course, list spots as we kind of expect them to have, like it is being said that the Tigers will probably have 5 to 6, list spots available, then you almost do want to say the Tigers should maybe add some more picks here. Like I'm looking at this right now, at the time making this video, Gold Coast have pick 6, 13, and 16. Honestly, even though those picks will go way further down as soon as a bunch of guys are academy matched and whatnot, if I was the Tigers and I was able to offer 3 for pick 6, 13, and 16, which I think the Gold Coast Suns would do, maybe something else on top of that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because those pick 6, 13, and 16, they'll probably end up becoming 12, 20, and 30 at this point. You almost kind of nearly want to do that because you could have the opportunity of taking a Sullivan Roby with a later pick, taking I don't know, maybe a Lockie Doverson with a later pick, whatever it might be. But it is really hard because you could make that happen. But then who's to say that Essendon, who have pick 4 and 5, and I think we'll be having pick 6 as well, which they'll probably get as Sam Draper comp, who's to say they won't take a Sullivan there? Like, they probably will. They got nothing to lose. They will probably take an upside player, and he could be that. And that's why that probably wouldn't work, that trade idea. So, if let's just say West Coast do get that pick 2 and comp for Oscar Allen, which we expect to happen, I think the AFL are probably going to give in and give it to him, even though I think they're saying they're declining that at the moment because they're signing Starcevic, which should knock it back. Realistically, they'll probably take Duff Tytler and Dersmer at 1 and 2. Meaning the Tigers will have 3 and 4. The best players available, there's Cumming available, I think the Tigers have been linked to. There's Grlj available, which the Tigers have been linked to. I have a feeling the Tigers just might take those 2 guys. So they're best available probably. But then like a Sullivan or Doverson, Tigers may want to trade up for him, but they'll probably just get taken by an Essendon or someone like that. So I really don't know. It depends how high the Tigers are on these guys. But in saying that, I feel like Sullivan does remind me a little bit of a Sam Lawler type. The Tigers might be wanting something a little bit different, and maybe that's why they might look at Cumming. I don't think the Tigers are going to take Lockie Sharp like people have been saying. He doesn't really fit Richmond's team, I don't think. And his CNFL performances were kind of shit. So we'll have to see how this does unfold. They could still... We really don't know, but I think Sullivan and Grlj are 2 really cool and interesting talking points to have. I'm excited to see how the Tigers do go and how this does unfold. Again, I'd very much like to hear all your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all those AFL content news. My gaming/movie channel, go and check that out if you haven't already. That will be getting linked in the description down below. Go give that a subscribe and watch some videos there. And tell me what you think if you go and do that. But also go and give my Instagram a follow down below if you haven't already as well. That is, of course, down below at Jordan Beecroft. Yeah, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.